has recently offered their fair share to contribute to the $10 billion per annum Fast Start Fund for adaptation and mitigation in the developing world. Will Australia also commit to contributing to this fund with money that is new and additional to current aid commitments, but also projected aid increasements over the next few years?
You've got several things in there, but we've said all along, the government and the Prime Minister and Minister Wong have said all along that we absolutely recognise that finance is part of this deal, and that's finance for adaptation and finance for mitigation, and over time there will be very large streams of finance, a combination of public funding and private funding and carbon markets and the forest carbon mechanism, and all of this we expect to have quite substantial financial flows over time. What you're talking about is the Fast Start funding, and quite recently the board of likely donors has settled on this $10 billion working up to $10 billion per annum by 2012. That's recent. And that's a figure that I think has come up, probably settled on in the last 6 weeks or so. And at Chobham, our Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, Prime Minister Rudd said quite unequivocally that Australia will pay its fair share of that sum. We haven't announced a figure yet. This is something that we're still working on, but it's very exciting to see developments like an agreement at the board level of China and the EU coming through, and the Japanese have put out a figure as well. And this is all, I think, a very positive trajectory. In terms of the content of funding or resourcing that you ask about, we've said under the convention we've undertaken to provide new and additional funding. Now, that will be part of the mix when it's finally determined.
Just pushing you on that a little further, I've heard you say before, undertake to provide new and additional funding, but will this be new and additional to current and projected aid, or is that not what that statement means or implies?
Look, I just can't sort of hazard a guess on that. We've made that undertaking, and that's the broad principle. And it's something that the Cabinet will sort out at the end of the day in light of the targets and the likely achievement and the likely need and the likely absorptive capacity, and how this money will be delivered. Because it will be delivered in a number of ways, through bilaterally and multilaterally. So it's just a bit hard to give you a correct answer on that.
That's an answer in itself. My final question. I understand that Australia is supporting the inclusion of carbon capture and storage, CCS, which hasn't of yet been proven on an industrial scale or a commercial scale, as part of an agreement on clean technology in the agreement. Surely it would be better to fully support renewable technologies which are already deployable.
The carbon capture and storage work, that's been a proven technology for over 50 years. We've got large demonstration projects in Australia, Canada, Algeria, Norway, and it does. Our expectation is that this now needs to be taken to a much greater level. So it's quite prospective in that way in terms of its large scale, and the Australian government is sort of committed to the Carbon Capture and Storage Institute as a way of taking that technology forward. That said, the Australian government also has a very comprehensive renewable energy target, quadrupling our use of renewable energy by 2020, and that's a very serious undertaking as well. So I think there's a sort of, as we say, suite of measures that takes account of solar, thermal, wind, solar, thermal, wind, and carbon capture and storage is just one of those things along the way. I don't think any government expects that a single technology is the answer to this, but it's, smart grids are expected to contain the input of a range of sources. Very exciting.
I suppose I'll just push you one last time on that question.
Good luck.
Good luck. So this was a question that was posted on the blogs, and people were very quick to point out that whilst there have been demonstrations of some aspects, never has there been a demonstration plant on scale which can capture CO2 from a power station and then be sequestered underground. And the ones which will come online soon are only going to do a few percent of the carbon dioxide from the station. So it's still not proven on the large scale, which is what we would need if it was to be effective.
Well, I think, Phil, one of the things to take into account that for the future, projected future at least, coal is absolutely part of the mix, and particularly countries like India and China they're absolutely unequivocal on this, that coal is part of the mix, and we need to really be looking at ways of managing this in a more constructive way. So I don't think it's right to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, Ambassador, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. We understand it's very busy for you with the Minister being here and all. We hope that the negotiations...
Prime Minister due shortly.
Prime Minister due shortly. What day is the Prime Minister?
It hasn't been announced yet.
Hasn't been announced. We hope that the negotiations
Nice
continue to do well and that Australia will play a very strong role to push for a fair, equitable and binding agreement at the end of the Copenhagen negotiations.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you
very much. Thank you.